Hey everyone, it's Nathan. I'm one of your ministers. Wishing you a happy Ash Wednesday is not the right word. Coming to you on Ash Wednesday. I wanted to kind of talk a little about, we've done Mardi Gras and a little of what the Lenten, also, pardon my kids, school's out today. Um, Pardon my kids a lot. But, Ash Wednesday is, like, I know a lot of people kind of feel like maybe it's a Catholic thing, which it is, but, well, let's do this. So, after Jesus' death, for about 300 years, there were all of these small Christian communities that were trying to figure out who they were. Were they Jewish? Were they not? Were they their own religion? Were non-Jews welcome? All sorts of stuff. And in 325, there was a vote to sort of settle all kinds of varying theological beliefs. And Roman Catholicism is basically the one that won the vote. And actually, a lot of the Unitarians, they kind of got escorted out. Not very politely. But so while it does come out of Catholicism, we also come out of pre-Catholicism, if that makes sense. I personally believe there's a natural arc, liturgical arc to the year, and we overlay holidays on top of it. So here is what Ash Wednesday and Lent is. This is the time of the year where we look at the things that are difficult. Like the things that not necessarily play with. Like we play with them during Mardi Gras, we play with them during Halloween. But right now is more where we kind of reflect on them. And a colleague of mine used to say that you're really clearing out to make space for God. Clear out all the stuff that's in the way. So I want to talk to you a little bit about death. Don't go. And then a little about Lenten practices. So what we are planning to do, well, let's do Lenten practices first, and then we'll get to death. So see, you got to stick around, then you can cut the video early if you don't want to hear about death. I feel like Lenten practices are designed to help us see the world more clearly. I used to do them every year. The last one I tried was the year that we shut down for COVID, and I haven't gone back to it yet. And I don't know what's behind that. That's like a me discernment thing. But, I would, rather than giving up like smoking or drinking or something that probably you're wanting to give up anyway, give it up. But the idea, I think, of a Lenten practice is to do something differently so you can see the world a little more crisp and a little more clearly. So if smoking or drinking is the thing to give up to do that. But consider also something else, like 20 minutes of silence every morning. With that, you could like set an alarm on your phone, throw the phone across the room, close your eyes, and just breathe for 20 minutes. So then you don't have to worry about it. You just do it until the alarm goes off. One year I did a thing where instead of a podcast or music when I went on my bike ride, I picked one book from the Bible and I just listened to it over, like every day for all of Lent. That was Mark. So I know Mark better than all the other Gospels. One year I gave up saying no to people. I only said yes when people asked. There's creative ways you can do it. So that's Lent. Think about, it's a practice that will help you engage more with the divinity that is inherent in us and in the world. And now to death. Ash Wednesday, the most dire is sort of ashes to ashes, dust to dust. Like this is the day we remember that we're mortal. And I found people do a lot of harm when they pretend that they aren't mortal. Because if you are someone who's going to pretend that you're not going to die or doesn't want to think about it yet, your family is going to do the rest of that work to compensate for the fact that you're not doing it. So you have to think about your death, or else other people are going to think about it for you. And our goal as a religious community is to give you all of the tools to really look at the parts of life that are, the upbeat ones and the sad ones. But to look at all the aspects of your life, but from a Unitarian Universalist and a spiritually healthy perspective. So here's what we're doing for Lent. For Lent coming up. We're starting this Saturday a Death Cafe, which actually kind of freaked some people out when we use that title, but we wanted it to be like playful, but not like too playful. Because death is serious, but it needs to not be this scary thing off in the corner we can't touch. And this Sunday we're gonna be preaching on it. I'm gonna preach about the elements of the Death Cafe, but it's about us as mortal beings, and it's about us as spiritual beings, and about just the logistics of it, things like that. So, and I wish I would have pulled up the worship calendar. We've got different angles on death for the entire, for all of Lent, and it also includes the blue services in there. We'll go away from it a little on Palm Sunday and then on Easter. It isn't. Of course, my phone or my device is gonna pop up things while we're talking, but you're already 6 minutes in. You can hear a little pop up noise. So the other thing for you to know is we're also tying in. This is a little tricky, but I actually think it's liturgically appropriate. We are tying in this Lenten season of death to also talk about legacy giving. Which, if you weren't leaving because of death, you may be leaving because of this. But just stick with me. Legacy giving is not a tool of just the wealthy. It is, what we're talking about in the church is putting your church in your will. Not necessarily for all of your assets. You're welcome to do what you want. But more as a way of thinking about how to sustain this church long term. We had, I think, 2 or 3 people right now currently have the church in their will. It would be great if 100 people had it. And there's also like weird rich people like tax tricks that I don't understand. But it is something like you have to pay some sort of something tax if you do a thing, but if you don't do a thing, you do this, and it goes to the church instead of going to the IRS. I don't understand it, but there's packets and stuff about it. But more than that, it's really if we as a religious people are able to let each other think about death going forward and let us be able to be at peace with it, because death is scary and sacred and painful and sad. And if we can do the pre-work, if we can go to the gym now before we have an injury, it's going to be a little healthier. But so part of it is, if we are a religious people talking about death, then it is also possible that this church could have a healthy endowment or a healthy, legacy giving program. And here's how I want you to, I'm going to encourage you to think of it and how we're going to frame it going forward, going throughout this Lenten season. Most churches our size, 70% of their budget comes from pledges. 90% of our budget comes from pledges in this church. That means we have to bring in revenue one of 2 other ways. One way is through rentals, which limit, it's an extra tax on the staff to make space for the rentals and also to arrange them. It also puts us at the whims of Baton Rouge, and it takes away space from the church. So the other is an endowment or reserve funds in some sort. If 100 people had the church in their will, and let's say of those 100, 25 left $1,000, $5,000 to the church, and then 25 left $100,000. I don't know how much your assets are, but and then a few people left a lot to the church. It would not be unreasonable for us to have an endowment that's like $500,000, $1 million, which sounds like crazy money, but I think we already have that in the few people who are willing, have already put the church in their will. So picture an endowment of $1 million, just for ease of math. We raised that 10 years ago at the Capital Campaign. If we got, this is really boring for 10 minutes in, but just stick with me. So for $1 million, if we got 5% interest, that is like $50,000 every year in the budget. I think I'm doing the math right. That we would never touch the principal on the endowment, and we could use to fund the church, which means your pledge drive asks would be lower. We wouldn't have the first 90% of the budget, which we just got through, is all the boring stuff. It's the air conditioner, it's the disability insurance, it's building maintenance so we can replace some old wood or things like that. But all the fun stuff, all the really cool stuff happens in that last 10%. And if we had reserve funds that church members gave, we would, if we had a program like what the generosity team is working on now, 40 and 50 years ago, we would be sitting on a substantially more comfortable cushion, and we could be doing some of these fun things. So I would like for you to think about, at minimal cost to you or to your family, we could set up the church for a long time. So that's the thing for you to consider. And, 11 minutes. Here we go. Even if, like most of the interest that we're getting from this are people who are older, in their 70s or 80s, which is great. But people die at all ages. So we need people in their 20s and 30s and 40s and 50s and 60s thinking about death also, and making plans also. We're going to talk more about that, like wills and logistical planning and spiritual planning and all of that throughout the entire thing. But this is sort of the launch of what we're trying to encapsulate. So there you go. Thanks for sticking with us for 12 minutes. This is going to be a fun Sunday coming up. And then the next Sunday is Blues Sunday. Oh, it's a good time to be in church and tell some people to come. All right, that's it. Hope you had a good Mardi Gras. Enjoy Lent. We need a good, happy enjoy. We need a good phrase for the sad anniversaries or the hard ones. Recognize or honor. Anyway, see you on Sunday.